Hi, and welcome to our presentation of the website user experience study for the company Bamboo HR. All of the study was conducted in the UVU Smart Lab at Utah Valley University. The researchers involved in the study were Brady Harris, Courtney Law, Katie Roisum, and Savanna Warner. It is important to note that all of the information collected in this report are qualitative in nature. That means they do not represent the entire population or any individual market segment. So to begin our study, we wanted to understand the user experience of Bamboo HR's website, and the following questions were examined. While looking at the home screen, what aspects of the homepage attracted the most eye attention? What pattern or flow did the user use when viewing the website? And what are the user's impressions of the website's functionality and usability? How long did it take the user to locate the mobile hiring app? How long did viewers spend in various areas of interest? And what were the fixation points of the website? After the study, we examined what did each user think of the website's functionality, usability, and likability. And did they have any difficulty locating the mobile hiring app on the web page? In our secondary research, we found that in order to understand what areas of the website are eye-catching, we needed to understand the fixation, or in other words, what was capturing the attention of the individual. When we found a study that talked about the importance of eye retention and how things such as animation allowed for the eyes and overall attention to continue to draw towards the movement. In our secondary research, we also dove deep into understanding the importance of design layout and the effects that it has on the success of a web page. When a landing page has a combination of both written text and images describing what is written, it is more effective and eye-catching to many individuals. As we proceeded with the study, we used the information found in our research to cater to specific points and occurrences that took place during the eye tracking test. For this study, we tested 4 subjects, 3 males and 1 female, between the ages of 20 and 59. Each subject was asked the same pre-questions, then were asked to view the home screen and search for the mobile home app. Each gaze plot and hotspots were recorded in order to give us accurate results on their fixation points. After the testing concluded, each subject was asked some survey questions about post-eye tracking, and the results were noted, and some have been included in this presentation. Some limitations that we faced was the fact that we had a small sample. Although the information that was collected from these individuals helped us gain insight of the website user experience, having a bigger sample size could have provided us with even more information. Another limitation would be not providing the A/B testing options to the same individual. But in all sincerity, the data that was collected has provided great insights and brought many opportunities to change to our attention. In order to understand what individuals were looking at when glancing at your website, integrated gaze plots, aggregated heat maps, and a post-test questionnaire were recorded. In the post-test questionnaire, the sample individuals were asked questions such as, what part of the website immediately caught your attention? What areas of the website did you like or dislike? And were you able to locate the mobile hiring app? To understand the fundamental findings in the study, it is important to note the difference in conscious and non-conscious responses. As you can see in the image on the left of the iceberg, the non-conscious responses included the eye tracking, the electroencephalograph, and facial coding. These are reactions that are observed and not vocalized. They allow us to understand what caught the individual's attention and what stimuli was present in order to do so. The conscious response, however, are the complete opposite. They included questions and post-tests, or in other words, events that required vocal explanation to certain thoughts and actions. This graph breaks down how biometric testing works, or eye tracking. As you can see, it does not require a large population to receive new information. It takes very little to receive a lot of data. As noted, once the reach hit about 20 individuals, it starts to plateau. That is why a sample size of 4 has provided us with really good information about the overall website user experience for your company. Next, we move to a breakdown of eye tracking. For this study, the following parameters were used. The device that was used was the Tobii X3-120. There was a sampling rate of 120 hertz. The sampling speed was 0.01666 seconds. The accuracy and precision was 0.4 degree and 0.34 degrees, and the minimum fixation measured was 100th of a millisecond. Now let's understand what heat maps are. A heat map allows us to understand where the fixation points occurred during the study. Those points with a hotter color or darker color mean that more time was spent fixating on that image or text. In upcoming slides, we put heat maps to the test to see where those hot spots showed up on your website. Last point before we dive into our findings are a couple important metrics that were used in the study. They include the time of first fixation in seconds, the time spent in area of interest, the subjects who viewed the area of interest, the fixation of all the subjects, the total number of revisits in the area, and the number of mouse clicks on the area of interest. To begin, this is the first heat map that was recorded. The individuals who looked over the homepage for 30 seconds, and once the time was completed, they were asked some retrospective think aloud questions or post-test questions, and this is what they found starting from the top. The text here that has the red and yellow and green circles were equipment share, and it was most recognized or important to the customer. The coloring of the font was confusing because the individual thought that they were clickable and everything else was colorful except this text. Moving down to this little paragraph here, it goes to show the importance of explaining what your service and product does in a written text. You can see here that they were kind of reading over what was going on and trying to understand to the best of their abilities. Next, we move to the picture, or to the 6 pictures of individuals and their faces. Some pictures had play buttons on their faces, and this was difficult for some of the individuals that we tested because they were focusing a lot trying to figure out why some had play buttons and some did not. Going down, the graphic was a cool way to explain the software. The type was small, but it was also easy to understand. So a lot of time was spent there trying to figure out what was going on. On this right-hand side, this is kind of the bottom half of the website. And at this point, the website was getting a little too long, and it shows that not a lot of fixation occurred towards the end of the homepage. So that just goes to show the importance of the length of the homepage and all of the information that is present on it. So the metrics for the snow version, starting at the top, the navigation bar had a time to first fixation of 67.2 seconds. A total time spent was 2 seconds. The number of revisits to the area was 38, and the total number of fixations was 96. The top snow picture had a total time spent of 14.2 seconds, 41 total revisits, and 716 fixations. The bottom box with the pictures of individuals had a time to first fixation of 67.2 seconds, 7.5 seconds of total time spent, 13.5 revisits, and 408 fixations. The area with the graphic had a time to first fixation of 25.6 seconds, total time spent of 8.7 seconds, 10 revisits, and 322 fixations. Then towards the end of the website, the numbers decreased a little. The 4 small boxes had an average time of first fixation of 34.1 seconds, an average time spent of 0.7 seconds, and an average number of fixations of 13. The testimonial box stood out the most towards the end of the homepage. It had a time to first fixation of 3.2 seconds, a total time of 4.2 seconds, and a first fixation of 116 and 20.5 revisits. These metrics illustrate the importance of the attention measured of each individual as they were asked to browse the homepage for 30 seconds. I'd now like to turn the time over to Savanna, who will explain more about heat maps.
Alrighty, we're going to be talking more about heat maps. We're going to look through the Bamboo homepage heat map and see what our volunteers saw and how he navigated the homepage. One thing that is great about heat maps is it also not only does it show what is interesting to the viewer, it also shows what can be confusing, and we will get into that later. But first, we start off, we see a lot of concentration here at the beginning. Basically the Bamboo homepage where it just says software company, what they do, and then you also see his eyes follow down to this panda. And in the interview, we hear him talk about how the panda, he was trying to make the correlation between the panda and the Bamboo software. So that's probably why you see concentration here. It's also a cartoon. It's very eye-catching and very colorful. As we come down here, we see lots of kind of fast moving concentration over these companies that Bamboo has worked with. And I think part of this was he mentioned it seemed almost unnecessary or kind of confusing. He didn't really know those companies and they didn't really mean that much to him. So then his eyes came down here. And as you can see, he just kind of gazed over the words. I am a big believer in bullet points. I think they are really easy to read. They really help a website look more clean and uniform. And our volunteer also mentioned that this paragraph he didn't read. He just kind of looked through it because it seemed almost overwhelming. Now, following along down the page, we see some concentration over here on this graph. We heard from our volunteer that this graph seemed kind of busy, kind of confusing in a way. And speaking of confusing, as I mentioned earlier, heat maps can also show us what is confusing. And up here, let me see if you can see that. Up here, we see lots of him just kind of reading the top of each section instead of the actual words. This was because he didn't feel like he wanted to read the whole paragraph. And so that is something I think Bamboo could do, is maybe do more clear, concise bullet points and words about what our mission is, how we can help you, what are the benefits. And our volunteer also mentioned having more action prompts. Up here, again, at the homepage, it's covered by the heat map, but it is an email subscription. And he felt that was too forceful almost. He was signing up to something that he didn't really know what it was. So having more engagement and audience opportunities to know what the company is actually about would be awesome, and specifically how the company can benefit them. Moving right along, we see the metrics for the heat maps. Up here, you can just see the time spent almost in each category. And as you can see, the most time was spent up here near the cartoon. And I'm gonna move. Okay, so the mobile hiring app, from our volunteer, he said it was pretty easy to find, but that is because he knows websites. He said if he didn't know websites, he might not be able to find it. So that is something to maybe take into account, maybe having a mobile hiring app, or maybe just the word hiring up here at the find bar. But overall, the mobile app was great. He once again mentioned he didn't read this. He didn't read the words. He spent most of his time looking at the titles of each paragraph. This really caught his eye, the mobile hiring app. I think that is because it's a picture and it's bold colors. So that's good for eye catching. I personally do believe in having good photos at the beginning of each website page for eye catching purposes and also for information. So when you click on this, you know immediately that it's for the mobile hiring app. And as you can see, he just kind of glanced around this. He didn't spend too much time in here. And here are the metrics for that. As you can see, he didn't scroll past this. He didn't look at this at all. He spent most of his time in here. And that's just metrics again, like I said earlier, things that catch the eye, things that might seem overwhelming or confusing. Overwhelming and confusion people sometimes just skip that because they don't even want to deal with it. So making the website more concise and more Easy to read could be beneficial for bamboo. Alrighty, now the old navigation bar. This is what I brought up earlier about how heat mapping can show us where things can be confusing, and this is a perfect example of this. We learned in the video that, as you can see, there's lots of different eye-catching and glances going on along here. They're trying to look for something, they're trying to find something that they can't find. And so that is something to keep in mind as you're building a website, making sure it is clean and using heat mapping to understand how to make it better. And this was the old navigation bar without the heat maps. So you can kind of see that better. See how that might be confusing. These words are very light, hard to read. So if those are bigger and bolder, that could work. And now the employee database software heat map. This was interesting to me. It was kind of a fast skim down the page, as you can see. He's not spending too much time looking at anything in particular until he gets right here. And it says people are interested in this feature. And I think this might be because it is simple to read. It's not cluttered by lots of things. I do like the purple scheme in this. I think that is helpful for people sometimes to have like uniformity in a specific part of the website. So having the purple theme for the employee database, I think, is beneficial. And as you can also see, people often read the titles and the things that are big and bold. Yes. Moving right along. Here are the employee database software metrics. This once again just shows what people are looking at and how people are seeing this and how much of a glance people are looking at this. Now, one heat map, I forgot to mention, one heat map is 1/10 of a second, I believe. So that is something to keep in mind, that this isn't, people aren't staring at this for minutes. This is like a quick glance. And the more, this is lots of concentration right here. That was more than 1/10 of a second, as these might be 10ths of a second. Now we will move on to gaze plots and learn about those.
Thank you, Savanna. My name is Brady Harris, and I will be talking about the gaze plots that we gathered for HR Bamboo. We want to share what their results were. But first, what is a gaze plot? How does it work? And how is it different from a heat map? First, to explain this, I will need to define some terms. As I do, I believe that these will help explain what a gaze plot is and how it is different from a heat map. Let me share my screen so that you can follow along while I share these terms. So here is a gaze plot. As you can see, there are dots and lines all over the place. But I want you to first look at these dots. This is called a gaze fixation. A gaze fixation on the gaze plot is a spot where the subject stops to look for however long. These areas where they stop and look are represented with the red dots that you see here. Bigger dots mean that the subject spent more time looking in this area compared to other areas. Unlike the heat map, it does not retain if they have looked at the same spot twice, and it does not count those results together, meaning it does not count it as the same dot. If they were to look here, then look away, and then come back, there would be two separate dots in this area. This is beneficial to design researchers especially because not only can it show what is attracting the most attention, but it also pinpoints the exact area of their focus. So maybe they are focusing on a clean, healthy mouth never tasted so good. Then they come and they look at the mouthwash. And then they come back and they read this again to see and solidify in their mind that this is a dental defense system or a dental company. This, as I said, is beneficial to design researchers because it can clarify and detail where their customers and consumers are looking. Heat maps provide more general information about these areas, where the gaze plots show precise, detailed information about where the subject is looking and what they are looking at specifically. Next is a saccade, excuse me. A saccade is the movements from the subject's eye between the fixations. For example, if they were to look at this area again, the saccade shows where their eyes went next. So from 2 to 3, these are marked with these lines. That is what these red lines are. So let's watch a few examples to see what certain subjects looked at. Each will have their own tracks and movements, but you will see that they will follow a pattern that each resemble each other. I will first show the entire video as a whole. I will show the video all the way through so that you can watch the subject's patterns, and then we will watch it again, and I will break down and explain what they're doing. This will help HR Bamboo understand the gathered information better. So you can see that there are many fixations and saccades all over the place as they scroll, as they read. So just continue to watch these movements. You can see that they are looking all over the place. They're looking and reading, they're looking at graphics, they're looking at numbers, they're looking at everything on this website as we have instructed them to. And I always think it's interesting that the mouse kind of does its own thing despite their eye movements. It's always interesting to notice that, but what is most important is what they're looking at. Okay, let's start this over. First, they log into the page, and first off, they see this HR software with heart. It's big, it's bold, and it's right in their face, right where they're typically looking as they refresh their page. They refresh their page here, and this immediately popped up, and it's big, and it's bold, and it caught their attention. And they looked here, and a lot of their focus was here. They read it, and then they kind of looked around and looked at the graphics and the pandas for a second, and then they continued on. They read the small print. They came back to HR. They looked at the top, and they continued to scroll down to where they saw many of their customers. And you actually see that they look at these and kind of for a second and check to see that this is a good company. Next, they hit this big bold lettering, "Let's be great together." Catches their attention. Then they look at their faces. They see who they're working with. Then they read this quote from one of their employees, and then they continue to scroll and check out the software. And this image is a great example of what should be done. It shows very clearly what the interface looks like and how it would look when they are going to be working on it. This is a very, very smart thing to do, especially on your website. Next, they hit some bullet points: hiring, onboarding, compensation, and culture. You can see that there are very good logos here and icons. and bolding is great, and it sends a clear message of what they do. So our subject in our test followed along with these pretty well. Didn't spend too much time reading the small print, but they continued on and read this big print. What makes us so special? All these bold, as you can see, all these big bolded sentences and areas caught a lot of attention. And they looked at the faces a lot. They looked at the icons, the pictures, all the graphics that were there. They looked at the picture of the interface. These were all very good examples of what should be done where the fine print wasn't as noticed. So if there's essential information in those fine print, this would be very helpful for Bamboo HR to realize that if they're putting essential info in there, maybe they need to bold it and break it out and put it somewhere where they can, where the customers will, where it will catch their attention. We will go to the next gaze plot. Okay. And it will be very, very similar. They look down here, they saw this. It's a little bit different. This person spent a little more time on the graphics and looking at the pandas. They checked out the sponsors. Very, very similar. This maybe you notice that they spent a little more time looking here and maybe a little bit more time here. And this was different from our first video. This caught a lot more attention because it's probably small and hard to read. So they probably needed to spend a little bit more time on that. That's our guess, or it could be that they're familiar with this one. But since they spent so much time looking at this, it was probably result of them trying to read it. So that's a good thing for us to know, and also for HR Bamboo to know, Bamboo HR to know. They continue to look at the faces. This subject, it was very clear that they were looking at the faces. And they were reading the quotes from one of the employees. Then they looked at the interface picture, which again is great. They came back to it. Then they continued to look up and around. Keep going. They look at the numbers. So you can tell that with this subject, the words aren't doing too much. They continue to look at images and numbers and people and graphics a lot more than the other person. But in general, for the most part, they were looking at the same things, and their patterns were very, very similar. So I will now pass the time over to Katie, who will finish the gaze plot videos with you and will share our findings in more detail. I hope that I have been able to help you understand gaze plots better, and I know Katie will help you as well. Katie?
All right, thanks, Brady. Gaze plots are really important. So they're an incredibly valuable asset when we're trying to determine the fluidity of a website. We can actually track where your eyes are going, what they're drawn to, so we can see if your website has fluidity or if it is lacking fluidity. So we can see a common pattern in gaze plots. We can see where the user's eyes are drawn to, and we can see if there's a similarity between different users. So this is actually our third gaze plot recording. I'm going to go ahead and play it for us, and I'm going to slow it down a little bit just so that we can see really what's going on. But up here, I just want everyone to notice right away the eyes are drawn to the panda immediately. So we have to look at the panda and think if those are actually an asset or if those are something that are distracting from what we really want our users to look at. They come to this navigation bar, they're wandering around there, and then they continue to go back to the pandas. They go to the pandas in the background and really look around there. So once again, we have to ask if that's a distraction. As they scroll down, they come to our other customers here. The ones that they look at the most are this top row right there. So we have to think, we want to put our customers that we might have the best brand recognition with our customers right there. So they'll look and recognize those other users. They don't really look too much at that bottom row right there. We want to remember that. And as they scroll down here to our list of employees that we have and other users, they really mainly look at those first two faces. So we want to put faces there that we feel like represent our company well. And we have to think if we really want those other faces there, these other four, do they add, do they subtract, or are they taking up space right there? Our participant doesn't really spend too much time there and he scrolls down. He does, however, spend some time looking here. He wants to see what the software looks like, what would it be like if they used it, and continues to scroll down. He really doesn't look a ton at these numbers here. So we have to think, do we want to put one main number there for our user to look at? Do we want to put other numbers there? But he really isn't browsing a ton. He's mainly looking at one and scrolling. As he comes down here, he does spend a decent amount of time looking at this gentleman's face. We have to think again, do we want this face here? Do we want to put another face here? Is this adding to our customer's experience? Is this gonna give them good information that we want them to have? Once he gets to this point, he basically scrolls back up to the top, stops a little bit along the way. And this is where he's really looking for his next point of action. What's he going to do next? This is where we run into some problems. Many of our post-interview questionnaire answers, so they really struggled with the navigation bar up here. So you see that he still doesn't know where to go. He continues to come back to the panda and really look around there. He gets distracted, but those gaze plots are all over the place up at the top with the navigation bar. So he's really struggling to understand what his next step is. Looks around a little bit. This is why gaze plots are great. We see that there isn't a clear path for him to go next. So we really have to think, what would we like to have there that would help guide our customer in the right direction? He goes to a couple different extra pages before he finally lands on the mobile hiring. I think it's important to note that this video is 1 minute and 37 seconds long, and more than 50 seconds of that video is searching the navigation bar. So of this gaze plot test, 50% of that and more, 50 seconds, he's searching the navigation bar, so he really doesn't know where to go from there. Let's go to our next slide. So here we have some still photos from that gaze plot from the navigation bar. We can see up here that he's really struggling. He doesn't know where to go. You can see how much confusion there is there. And here we can see how much distraction that panda adds. He keeps coming back to the panda. He keeps getting distracted because there isn't a clear point of action for him to take. This is our next gaze plot recording here, our last one. Similar, he starts out again immediately. If you noticed, he goes to the pandas. So you have to think, do those pandas add or do they take away? Are those pandas something that we want our user to see, or are those something that, you know, maybe is taking away from our overall message? He continues to look around here. He questions a little bit the navigation bar, but scrolls down. Again, those top three are the main customers that he's looking for. And we see here that he doesn't even really look at these other four faces. It's the main top two, sometimes that third face that he's really looking at. So does that add or take away? Do we want those faces in there, or would we rather have one good face that represents our company? He spends a little bit of time down here. He mainly looks at onboarding. So we need to think about that. Is onboarding something that our customers are interested in? Is that a feature that, oh, when they see that, they would like to know a little bit more what our company can do for them? What can our company offer them in terms of onboarding? From here, he pretty quickly scrolls to the bottom again, stops to take some time to look at the panda. But once he gets to the bottom, he very quickly goes back up to the top to see what's his next step, what's he going to do. And once again, this is where the navigation bar gives us some trouble. We can see the constant confusion that he has there. He goes to the panda, he goes to our cute little bamboo logo that we have, but he really doesn't know where to go. So this is when we need to think, are the pandas adding? Are they taking away? What else can we do to make it a clear type of action for the next step to get to the mobile hiring app? Go ahead and pause this and go to our next slide. So again, here we have some stills of the nav bar. We can see it's all over the place. They don't know where to go once they get to the nav bar. This is pretty common across all of our gaze plot studies. They're continued. They're trying to find different pages to go to, but it's really hard for them to find that mobile hiring app. So our key findings that we want to go over here, we had tons of great information from these tests that we did. The biggest complaint overall is the difficulty finding and using the navigation bar. We saw that in our gaze plots, and we saw that in our heat maps. They really don't know where to go and what the next step that they need to take is. In our post-interview questionnaire, many of the users requested updated and simplified design. So it wasn't just that they didn't know how to use the navigation bar, but they felt that it was kind of blocky, kind of splotchy. It wasn't super fluid. And I know that's something that we're really looking for. We want to understand the fluidity of our website. Users also requested an option to submit their email at the end of the page or at the end of their experience versus it being something that they are first requesting, the first required action. They would rather kind of get some more information regarding the website before they're asked to put in their email. They also requested that we make it more clear when users first get to the homepage what the purpose of the company is. They felt like they're getting to the homepage and there's tons of great pictures there, tons of cute pandas, but they really didn't understand what the purpose of our company is. Many users spent time looking for more info about Bamboo HR, but they couldn't find it. They felt like they had to scroll around a lot, and they were kind of given some information that still didn't give them a lot of clarity. And they also felt that seasonal designs might be a little bit confusing. They thought that the pandas were cute, but they didn't understand why the pandas were there in the snow. So I think that that's something that's going to add a lot of required updating. We might want to veer away from, just because that might be added dollars that we don't need to spend right there, and that also is confusing for users. So our users also requested that the homepage include more information to help draw them in and guide them to a point of action. They really wanted to know what the benefits of the product were instead of just the other users that were using this product. Majority of our participants had a hard time knowing where to go next. So that adds into our fluidity. They don't know what the next appropriate step for them to take is. And we really want our users to have an easy experience where they're there, they're comfortable and enjoying themselves and, finding out more information about our product, but they don't have to think too much. We're giving them all the information right there. So that's really, we need to keep things short and sweet, give them info in an easy to find way. We don't want to make the user work too hard to find the information. We really want to give it all to them. And we have to think about those heat plots. Where were their eyes going? Were they focused on the panda, or were they focused on the information that we wanted them to see? Information like how easy our onboarding process is, all of our other users, how you can use Bamboo HR and how it could benefit you. They also asked that we exclude unneeded information, areas where customers' eyes were not drawn necessarily. That's not really needed. Or if that information is something that we feel is important to our customers, that we really think they do need to be needing, we need to put that information in the area where their eyes are going to go. So take that information that wasn't getting a lot of heat on the heat map and move it somewhere where their eyes were naturally drawn. We need to put more emphasis on well-known users, as these were a large heat map. We want to put users that we think would impress our customers would feel confident in using because these other customers use them. So if that's a really big emphasis we want to make, we need to make sure that we put those right there. We put our well-known customers that would give us name recognition. We also want to put an easily labeled link to the mobile hiring app. Lots of our users went to the navigation bar and were searching, but they couldn't find that mobile hiring app link. They were going to different links and trying to find it. We want to make that really easy. So after they've looked through the website and think, you know what, this would be an amazing fit for me. This is a great product. How can I use this? We can direct them to the mobile hiring app and give them kind of the next step. So we want that fluidity to go. We want to follow that gaze plot map. Think, where are their eyes going next? Where can we put that next step that they're going to be looking so they don't have to search too much? Users also noted that they liked the overall style of the web page. It just needed to be simplified a little bit more. So some information that they felt wasn't totally relevant could be excluded, and other information that was super relevant, maybe that we think our customers need to know this, we can add a little bit more, clean it up, make it a little bit more simplified. So now that we've gone over our heat plot maps, our gaze plot maps and everything, does anyone have any questions that we can go over right now? Okay, well, from everyone here at the UVU Smart Lab, thank you so much for this opportunity to serve you guys. We had such a great experience and we all learned so much, and we think that Your company is amazing, and we hope we were able to add some more valuable insight to your company and how you can improve. Thank you so much.